There's a lot of fly fishermen around these days throwing much bigger flies than we ever imagined possible with fly tackle. And I'm going to demonstrate a couple of techniques for handling large flies, not so much heavy flies. Heavy flies, I'll refer you to the clip on my channel here on the oval cast. Okay, this is a cast that kicks the flies up and they clear your head by a long way. This is more for large wind-resistant flies rather than heavy flies. So the standard school of thought is that you want tight loops and high line speed to throw flies a long way, and that's this kind of cast, and that's tight loops, high line speed, big haul, let it go. Now, I can do those, but for me, I'm 68 years old now. My casting strength is not what it used to be. I rely a little more on technique these days than strength. And I've sort of adapted the tournament distance casting style called the 170 stroke to be my large fly distance cast stroke. I don't use the full 170. There's no point with the big flies, but I certainly use elements of it, and that is a very wide arc and a very long stroke. So in the stroke length, what I'm talking about here is my hand is going to be moving a long way, and I'm going to be using a wide arc. Now, normally if we use a very wide arc, we run the risk of doming the rod over the top here. And if we do that, we get a wide open fly leg in the loop. I'm going to be pulling through as much as I can in order, and at the end here coming down and then back up, in order to keep the tip of the rod as straight as possible through the casting stroke, and then I'll bend it here and then unload it at the end of the stroke. Okay, so I want, during my casting stroke, to form an aerodynamic fly leg in the loop. I have to have some element of straight line tip path through the casting stroke here, where I need some straight line path through here. So this is the casting stroke I use, and the reason I use it is I can develop an awful lot of line speed and power through a long stroke, and I find this long stroke very comfortable, as opposed to a much tighter stroke with a more abrupt stop. Yes, I can throw much tighter loops that way, but I find it a bit tiring. So my preference is this particular stroke. Let's get the lift right, lift, and I'm not aiming at all to throw tight loops. I'm just aiming to move the rod tip a long way. So it's not so much moving it, I'm accelerating it. I'm accelerating it from way back here right through to here, and the further we can accelerate something, the faster it's going to be going when we actually form that. The further we can accelerate this rod tip, the faster that loop is going to be going when it forms. Okay, the faster the rod tip's going to be traveling, and therefore the faster the loop. I'll do that once again. So lift, forget about the tight loops. There's the backing knot. This is a Rio permit line, a wonderful, wonderful casting line, and the rod is the new Sage 990 R8. Beautiful casting rod, just beautiful, easy, easy. This really bends when you load it, which is what I'm looking for. There we go, that's my distance casting style. I can throw the fancy tight loops, but I just find this far more relaxing, throwing those wider loops with a very long stroke. I think that the sign of a good caster is not so much being able to throw tight loops, it's being able to throw the appropriate loop for the situation. Okay, if I was throwing into the wind, then yes, I would want to be throwing a tight, fast loop. That's a different cast altogether. This is purely a distance cast with big flies where I'm trying to cover a lot of water.